Okay, it's happening.
Are we live?
No, loading. Wow.
Live on YouTube now.
It says live on YouTube, that's why.
It'll say, yep, we are now live.
Okay.
Take it away, Shine.
Participants three, na, but now let's say when people should we wait for people to join.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll keep video off until then. And you can call
we are live, guys. I can see us living it up.
Okay, ready?
Yes, three people are here already. Thank you, three people.
Yay. Thank you. Aren't we the three people?
Possibly.
We are the three people.
That's a chance that might happen. I'm just going to share this on our Instagram. But you go, Shine. It's recording.
Fabulous. Okay, everyone, welcome to this live. This is a live that we're doing from Books on Toast, but the live that we're doing is for the Shiny Happy Book Club, um, which, if you don't know, is a book club that was started by myself, Anuya, and Sharon as a collaboration between Books on Toast and Here Comes the Sun. Books on Toast, as you know, I'm sure, because you're on the Books on Toast channel, hopefully you know, is a wonderful place for book lovers to come and talk about anything to do with books. And Here Comes the Sun is a mental health initiative where we sort of encourage positive conversation about mental health, information, just trying to build the conversation around mental health. And the Shiny Happy Book Club is basically a marriage between these two pages. Because Sharon, Anuya, and I, all of us sort of realized that when it came to our own mental health, we realized the massive impact that books had on positively affecting our mental health. For me personally, I know that every time I've had any sort of dips or any low phases, I've always had books to go to. That's the great thing about books; they're always there. You don't have to call them back. You don't really have to, they're there to pick up whenever you want and put down whenever you want. And for me, Harry Potter was like my big, the big sort of series in my life that really helped me through a lot of stuff, and as I can imagine, is for a lot of people. And so yeah, this basically the idea was with the Shiny Happy Book Club to sort of marry mental health and reading. And so what we do is we get curators every month to recommend one fiction and one non-fiction book. And there's really nothing else to it. Then all you have to do is pick one of those books every month and just read with us. It's not a very complicated process. There's nothing, you don't have to join anything or sign up to anything. It's just if the books appeal to you, just pick a book and read along with us. And, all our curators, pick books that they think has helped them with their mental health or they will believe will help you with your mental health. And so for this month, for the month of August, our curator is Ashish Shakya.
Yay!
Shaks, put on your video.
Wow, he really
Yes.
likes
Hi.
cricket.
Sorry. Uh,
My
Slight
big
delay.
reel.
It's a
Yeah,
slight
big.
delay. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's so good to be here.
So good to have you, Ashish. I'm really happy that you decided to do this. I'm so
Oh,
happy that
absolutely.
also the books you've chosen are some really, really kick-ass books. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm sure pretty much everyone knows, certainly know why I'm bothering. Ashish Shakya is a brilliant comedian and a writer. No, I don't think he needs any introduction, but in case you don't know what he does, that's what he does. Ashish, let's just, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what's happening in your life right now. Just
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
us to life.
Sorry, I'm just looking at chat right now. I just want to say hi to the people in chat. It's always cool to see like just people interacting in chat and thoda. I don't know if there's enough people, but SHBCOP would be nice. SHBC, that's Shiny People Club. SHBCOP in the chat would be nice. So yeah, it's wonderful to be here. I really enjoyed these two books. They're very, very different. And like I was telling Anuya when she called, um, I don't really read shiny, happy books as such. I read what I find entertaining, and it is often set in worlds that are dark or depressing or just not what you would call warm and shiny and fuzzy.
So you read
But
dark books.
sorry.
You read dark and twisty books.
The world is dark sometimes, even if the book itself is not so much. Like you will notice with the Century trilogy, or a lot of stuff that I read that has to do with history or is in that action thriller, whatever mystery space. None of it is warm and glowing, but it makes you feel good because uh, it's really engaging and it just happens to be informative. And in this case, the book that we've chosen is just a sprawling sort of expanse and a walk through history with these very interesting characters that most of them just hit you and are immediately likable or fascinating from the start. And
So
and and
let's
in
just hear
that
Describe what
sense,
the
the
book
first
is.
book that you've chosen. The first book that you've chosen is the fiction book that you've chosen is Fall of Giants
yes,
by Ken Follett, which is part of a trilogy. So this is the
Century
first
trilogy.
book in a trilogy.
Hmm.
So okay, first of all, like what made you choose this book in particular, especially in this context, in the context of mental health and
Right.
happy, yes,
So
like happy book.
yeah, if I had to look at it from that angle, firstly, just simply because I liked it so much, it is a world that draws me in so completely. And I've reread it like over the last month because it had been a while. So I reread the entire trilogy because I am jobless, and it's all consuming and draws you in so well. And when I'm reading it, I'm not thinking about anything else. The world is very clear in my head, and that sort of detachment and break from everyday stresses, to read about this, that itself, as a first step, I found it always helps. I mean, like you said, books, right? Just literally an escape into another world. And secondly, because of the stories and the characters, if you just talk about Fall of Giants, it's set in a period of World War I. That's what the backdrop is broadly. uh, it is possibly one of the worst periods of modern human history. World War II gets a lot of attention because of Hitler, and rightly so, obviously. But World War One is such a tragic state of affairs, because if the basic history behind it is such that nobody went into it going, "We are the master race and we want to take over the world." It was, "This country is parking its soldiers on my border, so I want to protect it. These people are fighting, so I want to kill that leader." But everybody's allied, so they sort of come together, and it's just this domino effect of horror that keeps going. It's the change that went from the glory days of war where men went into battle to just abject horror where boys are dying and rotting away in trenches to be replaced by another wave of boys that is standing on their former friend's dead body as it melts in the mud, and they're fighting, and they will spend months for like quarter mile of land, which happened at the Battle of Somme and like a lot of the places. So the despair, abject despair and helplessness of that war, the absolute uncertainty which people lived in, right? When the Britishers first went into war, they were told a common slogan was, "We'll be back home before Christmas."
Yeah.
And then it was 5 years later and everything had changed.
And
So,
you decided that this book would put you in a shiny, happy place. I'm just clarifying.
yes, yes, I'm getting
Actually,
to
Because
it.
this
I
is
was
what I
actually
want to read.
no, I was going
I'm,
to say, but I also have, so I also kind of have why I think it's a shiny happy book. As you
yeah,
were talking, I was like, oh, okay, I actually now totally get why it's a shiny happy
yeah,
book. I'll say
yeah,
mine, but you, yeah,
yeah. But
Because
I'm
you're
getting there.
not the
So,
boy in the trench. That's why.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, we are not the boys in the trench.
Uh,
But the reason it works, even if you were to look at the positive aspect of it, it is a story of mostly good people, um, having been dealt a really rubbish hand or an uncomplicated or a really complicated hand, circumstances beyond their control. Something I think we can all relate to in a different aspect, but genuinely, their world is turned upside down and they are fighting through it all. There are people who are brave and kind and open-minded and progressive, and they're uh, doing what is, I feel like, one of the most difficult things for a human being to do is to break out of status quo, right?
hmm.
Which is why not everybody is a big leader, which is why any life change, whether it is something as small as getting out of bed in the morning after like a month of being unable to and doing basic tasks, to dealing with massive changes, whether it's in your career or your love life or your health or whatever, right? These just, or speaking out against a family member who is toxic or whatever it is, breaking out of status quo is very difficult. And most of the characters in these are fiercely driven, strong people, whether and that strength in the face of such horror,
Pretty.
where sometimes I feel like if our generation had to face that, like I would just like I would die. Like if you tell me go to a trench, I'm like, nah, I'm walking into Carter Road. The Samundar is right there. It's a way better death. So that tenacity and that bravery is what is the core of this book, and that I think would be the shiny happy aspect. And of course, because it's written in a pacey manner, and it moves from like these stories of war and bravery and politics, and these are all things that I find interesting. So from like an interest point of view, obviously there's that, but it is genuinely um, the tenacity of these characters which is inspiring,
Yeah, I
and the
mean, I
lives
think,
they lead.
yeah, I think the way I look at it, I mean, so this book actually broke me out of a really long fiction slump. Like, I have
Yeah.
primarily read nonfiction for the last, like, I'd say 5 years.
Oh wow.
I read the odd fiction book, but this one really broke me out of a slump because it was just such a like um, pacey book that it's exactly that where it's like one more chapter, you get to the end of each part of a chapter and you're like, okay, no, I need to know what
Yeah.
happens next.
Yeah.
And the shiny happy part of me for that is for this book is also, like you said, it's the tenacity of the characters, but it's also the fact that it gets you so lost. You're so lost in this other world that it just completely takes you out
Hmm.
of your own world. And I think that makes it a very shiny happy book because I mean, it's very distracting. You've got your little cat. Like, what is happening?
Anuya has got her own shiny happy
What
side, I
one
think.
here, one is come here. Like,
They have come. I have nothing. It's a
No,
miracle, as in, yeah, this never
Anuya, so
happened.
yeah, Anuya's cats hate her. For context, for people who don't know, Anuya's cats hate her, and today they have decided. I don't know. Maybe she's not taken a bath and she smells of fish, so they've
wait,
decided
I need to take a
that she's
screenshot of this, guys.
nice.
What the hell?
So they're
Yeah,
cuddling
so I
onto
mean,
her, and
yeah, so
Anuya
yeah,
can't let
so
go.
like I was saying, where the hell am I going? Yeah, like I was saying, I think that the fact that it's the kind of book that you get just so lost in, and I think there's so many layers to it. Like you're talking about World War I is just a very sort of, it's the lesser known of the two world wars.
Yeah,
And also you don't realize how long this war went on for.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
then, and I've read history about World War, but it's a
yeah.
completely different thing when you're reading it as fiction through the eyes of all these different characters. Also interesting that every character is from completely different walk of life, and
Yeah.
you're reading it from all these different perspectives, and it becomes so much more real to you. The fact that this went on for 5 years, and
Yeah.
And
it on and on.
I mean, even characters like the I think it starts with the Billy and Ethel. How can you not like Ethel Williams? Like
Amazing.
instantly,
I love her.
instantly. This is a woman in the early 1900s. I think we're talking 1911 is when the coronation or that first party happens. 1911 or so. So
Yeah.
this is like more than 100+ years ago. This is a Welsh maid from a coal miner town in an earl's house. Like this is a world I should not be able to connect with
See,
at
Yeah.
all.
Shaka, that this is why you should be watching Downton Abbey, like Shine and me. Uh,
That's the thing. So I started rewatching down because I was reading this book and I was like, I just need to be in the early 1900s right now. And I started rewatching Downton Abbey for like the third or fourth time. And when doing both things side by side, I literally in my head, I don't feel like I'm living in 2020 right now because I've just
Yeah, yeah,
completely
yeah,
like transported myself to this entirely different time.
yeah.
It's
And yeah, so I mean, even as a writer, Ken Follett, like Ethel from the first page, the way she interacts with the important people, the way she's unafraid, and she's got like a spark about her that's evident from page, instantly likable. Her brother, I think, Billy, it starts with him going onto the mine, and then the guy's pranking him, and he's in the middle of all this. In the darkness, they leave him there, and he kind of figures it out by himself. That in a kid, that is a strength of character, and immediately these people are likable,
yeah.
and just goes on from there. I think for me, I think Gregory was the Grigory Peshkov
Grigori.
was the other standout character in the first book. Because again, just a simple man working to just stay afloat, common sense, good head on his shoulders, and has to sacrifice for his family. And like that is such a classic like archetype. Like that's such a classic like good person, and the story of history that he's caught in, where uh, aristocracy has to be overthrown in Russia because it has reached uh,
Yeah.
extreme levels of corruption. What a place for that man to find himself in. The sacrifices he makes, the growth he experiences. Again, he's breaking out of his status quo. He's either trying to go to America, then that doesn't happen. Then he has to join the army, and the army is trying to save himself because like the commanders are taking stupid decisions. So he's literally disobeying orders and shooting errant commanders. Just like it's crazy the way he grows, storming with the Winter Palace. So that character stands out. Maud again, Maud.
Maud, I
But
love Maud, guys.
Yeah,
I really like Maud.
The girls,
dude.
it's amazing how well he's written the women,
Yeah.
considering he's a man. But
Yeah,
Ethel and Maud are really, I mean, I did not have much context to the suffragette movement. You know,
Hmm.
that's what I love about this. It's like, that's what I love about historical fiction in general. It puts faces to suffering. It takes away just, they are no longer just statistics, right? These are people with full lives behind them that have left those lives and find themselves in this situation that nobody ever could imagine. Of
yeah.
course, we are also in the middle of a
Exactly.
situation
But
where,
you know
right?
what? And
That is what makes it relatable, I think. Not
in a
the
sense,
same
yeah,
level of gore, but
yeah. But
but
because I feel bad comparing it, but there's one element in common, which is uncertainty. Yeah, we're
yeah,
not dying in trenches. We're sitting in our nice houses doing this chat, and we get food home delivered. We're broadly okay, but it's still
yeah,
we're privileged, and it's a terrible time for the world. We're not in
No,
facing
I think
hell.
also like what's interesting, like you said, what's interesting about the book is that I also don't think it's not like any of these characters going to war were characters that were honed and built for war.
Yeah,
These were
yeah,
just young boys just
yeah.
suddenly thrown into a situation that they actually have no training for,
yeah,
no
Absolutely,
idea how to deal with.
absolutely.
Towards the end of the book, there's a character who literally within the first 2 minutes of being on a warfield just dies
Yeah,
without there being gunfire, without anything
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
So the people who are not built for this, it's not like they're war machines who have been trained or soldiers going to war. They're just boys plucked out of regular life who have been put in an untenable situation.
And the
yeah,
uncertainty, what is common is the uncertainty. We're all sitting around going, when will COVID end? Like, is it tomorrow? Vaccines? Like, nobody knows at this
Yeah.
point. And in that sense, like, is what happened. Imagine even if you're not in the war, if you just like your son's there and you're at home figuring shit out, you're on wartime rations, there's no food, there's no jobs, you don't know when. Like, it's crazy, right? I found an interesting question in the chat, if I may. Generic user 9, very nice username,
yeah.
has asked, did you guys hate Fitz? What do you think?
No, yes and no, yes and
Yes
no,
Okay.
and no.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because I knew where, like, I could empathize with him as well. And I mean, of course, we love Ethel, so it's easy to hate Fitz, but you know what? People are fucked up and they make mistakes, and
Yeah.
it's fine. And the
No,
So,
and
and
real
also
that's,
I think
long,
sorry.
Fritz was such a product of his environment also,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, it's very hard to separate. Fritz was kind of like he was this is what he was like created into. He was made
Yeah.
this person by the environment that he was in. And in a lot of places you do see that he does try his best. Unfortunately, his best in a lot of situations is just not enough. And at times it's all a lot of self-interest. But he
Yeah.
does try to serve his country. He does
yeah.
fight for the things he thinks that he should fight for.
Yeah.
And
And
Um,
it,
and that's what like it's he's
consider
not that.
Walter is also like Walter is a great character, and
Walter's a great
I have,
character.
yeah, it's been a while since I read it. Fitz and Walter were friends, right?
Friends. So
Yeah,
Fitz's thing is, I like him as a minor antagonist. I mean, he's not like a major antagonist, but he is sort of an antagonist to Ethel. But there's some nuance to it, like you said, product of his time. So again, it comes out from like breaking out of status quo. When you are an earl and this is all you know, he's not going to suddenly break out and say, I'll fight for workers' rights and women should have all that. Like, he's not going to be that in the early 1900s. So I think that's important to note. Whereas Ethel breaks out, and Billy, who's religious, breaks out of church and says, you know what, I've had enough of this.
yeah, I think that's
Uh,
also where Maud is a character that actually is
yeah.
more going against status quo because she's a woman of that time and she's in aristocracy, part of that life, but very much breaking away from that in very very big ways.
yeah.
A Maud, when you picture Maud, like when you're reading the book, you obviously picture people, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you have like a certain look or person in
I was
mind?
gonna ask you, did you guys also mentally cast all the characters? Because I
Some
Yes,
of
did.
them.
I
Some of
did.
I
them.
I did.
who did you cast as Maud?
Maud, I was thinking, very strongly. What's her name? The Batman में रिया उसकी बहन. There's two there's two people, right?
That's my queen.
Actors. Fuck.
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal, Maggie Gyllenhaal,
Yes.
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Shaka,
Some
we
reason,
spoke about this. That's what
Okay.
yeah,
both
I think,
have more in our head.
I
I
think
also
Maggie
saw
Gyllenhaal
Maggie Gyllenhaal as Maud,
as
and I
Maud for
saw
some.
Martin Sheen as Fitz.
Oh,
Uh,
Martin Sheen's too sweet.
That's interesting.
he,
You know,
he goes,
weirdly, Matthew from Downton Abbey is my fits because I just pictured him and then it just the character just went somewhere else and I was like, oh no, but now I'm stuck with him looking
yeah,
like this person.
So
Sharon, I'm saying. Shine, he doesn't Fitz.
He does not fit.
if it fits, as fits. No, but the first time I read it, I know it's wrong because she's a brunette, but for some reason I pictured Ethel as Ygritte, like the Leslie Snow. I
Yeah.
think what's her name?
Rose
Yeah,
Leslie. Rose
Leslie
Leslie.
Rose. Sorry,
Leslie
Rose
Rose.
Leslie.
You
Rose
know who
Yeah,
Leslie.
I saw? Kelly MacDonald.
I don't
You
know.
know Kelly MacDonald from this Boardwalk Empire. Kelly only
I'm
her
not
name is.
watching Boardwalk Empire.
She's also in No Country for Old Men.
But
She's got a very
and I know
ethnic face.
this is in the second book where Ethel's kid grows up Lloyd, right?
Lloyd.
So for some reason I pictured an older Lloyd, not the younger one, slightly older Lloyd, as like a non-muscular Henry Cavill, not like Superman, but he's a very like good-looking, like put together, dignified man. I don't know why.
Okay, so
Uh,
I have a question. What was
Sorry, in the chat they're asking, can we see all
Hey,
the
someone is
speakers
saying
together? Is that
Sherlock as
possible?
Fitz. Sorry, I did it.
Okay, cool.
It's done. Yeah, I changed it to grid view.
Yeah.
Someone has suggested Benedict Cumberbatch as Fitz.
As
That's
fits.
also cool. Yeah, that
that
Fitz.
could be
Think of it.
that could actually be he could be interesting because Benedict Cumberbatch has got that slightly like grey, but he's also too cool. Fitz is not cool enough, I don't think.
Yeah,
Like
like
he's
think of an
a character.
arrogant. Who would do an arrogant prick really well?
I'm telling you, Martin Sheen, he'll be
Ma-
awesome as
Martin Sheen's
Fitz.
so sweet, dude. I remember him from 30 Rock with Liz Lemon. So he's just like he's so sweet.
Yeah, but
So
see
sweet.
him in Good Omens. Actually, he's
Good.
sweet in Good Omens
He's
also.
sweet in good moments also.
He'll be kick-ass, I think. Someone, shit, I was gonna
Henry
say.
Cavill is hot. Well, if you read the second book, you'll realize Lloyd is also hot, guys.
Guys, someone else said Maud was Maggie Gyllenhaal for me also. Generic user said.
Oh, that's awesome.
insane.
That's awesome,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
so I don't know if you guys know this, but I saw on Ken Follett's website that they are BBC has bought BBC no, ABC has bought.
I
And
was
it's-
wondering, that's actually what I was wondering when I was reading. I'm like, why isn't this a show or a movie yet? Like, how has this not been
Yeah,
made?
it is like
for a show?
35 seasons they can make of this.
Yeah, it's
There's
like
so
never
much.
ending.
There's so much.
Never
How does
ending.
the second book stand up against the first book in the trilogy? Asked
It's
Kunal.
amazing.
It's really good. Like it is action from page one. It's outstanding.
I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like, I'm so happy I have a trilogy to like dive into now. Like, I have multiple books to
Yeah,
go.
like I finished it. I finished the trilogy literally last night, and I was like, well, what do I do with my life now? Well, shit.
Read Pillars of the Earth. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, it is 80% there.
Yeah,
It's the same. It's like comfort food.
Um,
So what
yeah,
was it?
so-
What was it? What was it about the book that I don't want to say? What about the book surprised you the most? Was there anything in the book that really surprised you?
Okay.
I'll answer. I can answer.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Uh, after I read the book, I realized the gaps in my knowledge of history. Like, for example, we never really got the German perspective on this war, and even in World War II, what it must have been like to be someone who is against everything Nazism stands for, but find yourself in a country that is being ruled by that ideology. So, I mean, of course, we can relate to that.
I
a little,
wonder what that
but-
feels like.
Okay,
but
what it feels like.
yeah, but two books do that really well. First one is this one, right, where you get to see the German side. Of course, it does, and Ken Follett talks about this as well, that he's tried to be objective, but the liberal view does seep in without him wanting it to be so. But of course, he's not going to write a book talking about how Nazism is great within Germany, right? So for me, it
Yeah,
was that other perspective that really helped me. For, like I said, two books to it. The other book that does it really well is Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak.
book thief is
So yeah, so just I loved that. I loved it. I did not know about the Christmas truce,
yeah.
between soldiers on the border. Where was this?
Yeah.
England and France
Uh,
versus
No,
yeah,
no.
German side,
in
right?
France.
It was English in England and Germany. The
France
truce
and
in between
Germany.
them only.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
in France.
It was in France. It was in
In
France. Yeah.
France, yeah. And I mean, that's amazing that they just decided, hey, आज Christmas है, आज नहीं झगड़ेंगे. पूरा war के लिए decide
Yeah,
करके
because
सब अच्छा होया
yeah,
वैसे.
but it's a bunch of boys, right? On Christmas Day, literally a bunch of boys. People lied about their age, or they were conscripted at like 18,
Yeah,
17.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so what you said, gaps in knowledge. Um, Also the way everyone was tied together. Like I didn't know, for example, early on, that the wars essentially was a family feud, if you think about it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because of Victoria, all these people were related. The Kaiser and the Tsar
yeah.
were cousins, right? Russia and Germany, they were cousins, and England also was. They were all related by marriage. It was essentially a big family feud,
Hmm.
and that is astounding. And what is interesting, as the books progress, by book 3, you will realize that kids and grandkids have happened, right? And they've all intermarried. Like, for somehow they found each other, and like a lot of people have intermarried. So it essentially mirrors the royals of the first book. By the end of the third book, characters from Russia, Germany, England, Wales,
Yeah,
they are kind of America. They're kind of married, and yeah, it's lovely how he's built that.
yeah,
Another thing that I find very interesting from a writing and editing perspective is to compress that amount of history
hmm.
into this much, keep it interesting. So that's why you'll notice a lot of time jumps, right? You'll go from, you're in 1914, so now it's 1916, like one character, like it jumps, and that's fine. You don't want to sit there in the trenches every day. They're hitting key moments and they're moving really
No, I
fast.
think that's what surprised me. What surprised me about the book was just the sheer also historical detail that he's gone into. Because I mean,
Yeah.
when you go into just sort of the politics of the time, and when you go into, this the political nuances of the time, like that I think Grigory's entire sort of arc in Russia is so heavily political, and the way that he sort of deals in his writing with like that completely political landscape. Because it's so interesting that you're kind of going from like Maud and Fitz to suddenly being entrenched in like yeah.
In
I'm
Russia.
sorry. I
In Russia.
Political Russia, like just Russia at the height of just complete collapse. And
Sorry, I just want to add that, Anuya, you feel like you look like a Yashraj heroine who's just discovered like a boy likes her. Just literally, you're just like, oh fuck, ऐसा पहली बार हुआ है 17-18
also
सालों
the
में.
little villain is happening.
realizes
So
what
she's
a
also
historical
sitting
moment
like
this
this.
is. I decided to let them be in this room because they never come near me.
Sorry,
And they
Shaheen, you were
so
saying you were talking about Russia.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I'm just like that's. I mean, that's what surprised me about the book was just the sheer political the detail that he goes into and how well
Yeah.
researched it is. Like I was not
Yeah,
expecting
yeah.
it to be as um, nuanced as it was in all the things that it was saying. Like you genuinely just feel like you're there because even when he's talking about very small details that you would not really expect, and it adds to the realism of feeling like you're really a part of this world.
Do you remember any parts that moved you really, like, really hard, or to tears, or were very exciting, whatever, from the first book?
So I think for me it was that end that that end of the book when the war is just about to end,
Hmm.
and was it which character was it? Was it no? It wasn't. Was it Billy? Was it
Is it
Walter?
Gus? Is the American soldier
It's
rushing
Gus.
forward?
It's Gus. Yeah,
Gus,
it's
Gus,
Gus.
Gus, Gus.
And the young boy wants to go, and he's like, "But in 5 minutes we could be there
Yeah,
could be ceasefire." And
yeah,
he said, "Let me give it a go." And he goes, and just as soon
yeah,
as he sees the boy drop dead, it's like the war
yeah.
is over, and he's like, "I have to live with. I have to live with." That this character has to now live with making that choice for the rest of his life.
And what a great way to describe the futility of war with one sequence. And that happened, by the way. There were soldiers that died that could have been saved had they waited 5 minutes.
I mean,
Literally, that has happened.
yeah, I thought
I
that
rem-
was such a heavy moment.
yeah,
hey
yeah,
guys, can we let us? There are a few questions.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Let's
just
take.
gonna ask them.
yeah.
Okay, Yash Mendirata says, how much time did it take you to finish the book?
I mean, I don't really uh, see it that way. I'm not really timing myself. The Kindle has an estimate of it'll take you this much time. I think I read faster than the estimate. It's in chunks, man. I don't really know. Like probably a weekish worth of reading, I
Yeah.
guess. Like a
So
few
I
hours every day. I don't know.
I read it quite slowly. So, I mean, I went with about maybe 20 minutes of reading per night, 30 minutes of reading per night. And I finished the book in a month. So it's
Okay.
reading in, sporadically, not sitting and reading for like 2 hours at a time,
Yeah.
uh, in small chunks. So it took me about a month to finish. And that's a leisurely pace.
Yeah, but just to add one more thing about the length, I know a lot of people get intimidated by length. Haha. No, but uh, relax. This is not a heavy channel. This is books on toast.
We are very classy on this channel, okay?
Yeah. Toast है तुम्हारे नाम में, of course.
Ah,
No, a lot of people get intimidated by that. And even I think in your post, you'd put out the book as classified it as a serious reader uh, level, right? But just
it's not.
it's not, because
Yeah.
I feel like it, even though it's heavy, like it's 1,000+ pages, it's the writing is so fluid. It's short, simple sentences, because he doesn't need to be flowery. Like the Book Thief, much shorter book, way more intense. Because
Yeah.
and again, the Book Thief, the prose itself is beautiful. Like the language, like every sentence is one like just bursting with imagery. This is like no, Fitz moved here, he ducked, he crouched, he saw it. Like
Yeah.
it's not. There is the odd sentence and turn of phrase that's wonderful, but
It's an
you don't
easy
have
read.
to.
Yeah, in,
It's a
in
very
terms of
easy read.
actual reading experience,
Yeah.
it's an easy read.
Yeah, it's not taking 3 hours to describe one tree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
That,
don't get
that's
intimidated
Lord of
by.
the Rings. That's Lord of
Yeah,
the Rings.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a very very easy read, dude.
Okay,
Mm.
guys,
Uh,
I'm going to read out a passage, okay, paragraph,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then should we go to Tarkash?
Yes.
sure, whatever.
Okay,
Does audience have anything else to say?
let me just check if we have more questions. Uh, who's your favorite character and why? Smriti, we've discussed that, but guys, if you had to pick one character, who would it be?
Yeah, please let us know in chat.
Ethel.
I would
I
say
will pick.
Ethel,
I will pick
because I
Ethel.
think she's the driving force for a lot of the
Yeah.
story,
Yeah,
even in
and
like
the how far
subsequent
she
books.
comes, how
Yeah,
far she comes.
man, I
So
really want to discuss book two and three, but I don't want to give
yeah.
spoilers. But do read it. Do read it.
Yeah, book two is excellent. Book three is where it gets a little repetitive, but even then, I
Get
enjoyed reading book
Yeah,
three.
it gets a little slow in book three in the middle, like it's because you're not in a world war; it's the Cold War, so it's not as immediately exciting.
Yeah,
There's a lot of U.S. politics in it, but there are still certain moments in book three that are outstanding. I think most of them still come from the German aspect, East Germany,
oh God,
and
I love that about book three. Just how
yeah.
it tells you about the
The
Berlin Wall
story
and East and West
of the
Germany.
communism, man. Like I finished it, and there were goosebumps. Like one, I'm just like I'm going to cry now.
Yeah,
Stuff like
amazing. That's why I enjoy watching Deutschland 83 so much.
yes,
Which,
I'm
guys,
on.
is a German show set in Berlin in the 80s. So if you want to,
Uh,
Yeah.
Urja
good,
says, I love
good,
how Ethel gets
good,
out of the
good.
toxic relationship with Fitz. That's
Yeah.
actually cool.
That was actually a
That's cool.
very nice, empowering moment because as a
Yeah.
reader, also there's a small part of you that kind of hopes that, but then when she goes the other way, you're like,
Yeah,
actually,
Yeah.
no, thank God you were strong enough to make that decision.
And that's good. What I liked was she didn't come outright and say, no, fuck you. Like, there was a moment where he comes back and he's like, I'll give you this house and like we can be
Yeah.
together. And she considers it, for the sake of her child and all of that. And then obviously she realizes how wrong he is. So that again, just moving away from a comfortable but terrible situation to an unfamiliar but better one. Again, ballsy. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, very, very.
okay. So reading it out, I think you guys will also like it. This is a
Yes.
Walter chapter. Men were the only animals that slaughtered their own kind by the million and turned the landscape into a waste of shell craters and barbed wire. Perhaps the human race would wipe itself out completely and leave the world to the birds and trees, Walter thought apocalyptically. Perhaps that would be for the best. Shiny happy.
Tiny
Yeah,
happy,
we
tiny souls
Walter
happy.
thought apocalyptically is such a nice word.
Apocalyptically. Now I just want to take a moment to appreciate how not good the writing is. Because
This particular passage.
Gaiman says, no, Stephen King says, what does Stephen King
What?
say? Stephen King says that the road to hell is paved with adverbs. And we've done this
uh,
here, thought apocalyptically.
Yep.
But
apocalyptically.
But it's a good thought. It's a nice thought. Okay,
It's a
bye
nice
bye.
thought. It's a
Bye
nice thought.
bye.
Why am I seeing your cat's butt?
Okay, guys.
All right,
Butts
let's
on
move
toast.
on. Let's move on to Tarkash.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Ashish, why don't you tell us about your non-fiction pick for
Chase.
Very, very unconventional non-fiction pick.
very
Very
unconventional,
unconventional.
very
You
interesting as
know,
well.
once in a while, I was like, कुछ नया करते हैं. Or non, मेरा सब genuinely मेरा सब non-fiction. You know what else I was reading? I was reading literally a history of the Second World War. It's just like it's just non-fiction, and it's just battle by battle every city. It's not shiny. Like I can't spin that a shiny happy and all. And yeah, I've just been reading stuff like that. I mean, um, so I picked Takash because um, I like the Hindustani language. I'm not very good at it. I don't speak Urdu very well, but you are friends of mine, so you know my tendency towards a lot of this Coke studio poetry, that sort of stuff, where it's beautiful. Ghazals, the lyrics are what really draw me into it. And I never really read it, and then I picked it up. I think this was on Rega's recommendation a couple of years ago. I picked it up. Um, and I just really found it very accessible and lovely. And like I said earlier in the video, it feels like Javed Akhtar is just sitting there and just doing shairi. And
Mm.
some of us may have a little experience with shairi. I know Anuya and I, we went to Commune last year and saw that live, and it's great fun. And just reading it is a nice sort of soft, gentle break from the other stuff that I read. So that's why I chose this book. Also, it's written in Hindi, like Quiver. The thing is written in Hindi, and there's an English translation. And Hindi, I've not read since I was 15 because that was when I had to do it in school.
Yeah.
So all of these reasons made it very interesting. The best way to read it is in its original language. Um, and yeah, it just felt like a book version of like a mellow drink, if I can
Mm.
put it like that. I don't know if people in the chat, if you read anything from Tarkash, please let us know from Quiver. And yeah, it was partly okay. I should try something new,
Yeah.
and I like poetry in so many other forms in terms of ghazals and songs and people doing shari on stage. Let me see if I like this as well, and I did. This is again not like a book you will read the whole thing like a storybook. It's not that you kind of dip into it from time to time, right? It's poetry. You pick
Yeah.
up, read a few passages, something will uh, strike you, something you will really like. I shared one share with Anuya, and she was like, "What is this? I don't understand."
I don't understand.
Anuya went full band. ये क्या है बाया English में हिंदी English में बोल रहे हो क्या है बाया? So I can probably read out one. I'll read it badly,
Yeah,
and then
read
we
it.
can kind of discuss the themes. It's really about
Why,
like
why don't you read? Why don't you read it in the original and then read the
yeah,
translation as well?
yeah, and then we can. Okay, so this is the one I shared with Anuya. She didn't get it. Let's see if people get it. I think it's very simple. Uh, सबका खुशी से फासला एक कदम है हर घर में बस एक ही कमरा कम है Anuya, do you understand?
Oh, I really like. Ah, that's lovely.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's really.
Anuya, can
Guys,
we
I
explain?
don't.
Okay,
I am not a poetry person. You know this.
but you understand Hindi.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
you know, I'll tell you what. If this was in an item number, Kareena Kapoor going fast like that, Anuya would be like, oh, what a song! Oh. But what I like about this is essentially he's saying that like everyone's always just
One
like happiness is always just like
one
a
step
little
away
bit
from
away,
happiness.
one step away, right? And the metaphor is used as har ghar mein ek hi kamra kam hai, which is true literally because when you go house hunting, you're like, man, I wish I had one more room to do this. And I mean, as a metaphor, it works because just like
See, I mean,
no
in
matter how big
Bombay,
your house is, you're like little bit more,
in
right?
Bombay, it works literally because our houses are small. So
Yeah,
that's what
but
confused. Okay, like it
yeah.
was just about real estate. Like, what is
did,
this?
did you think did you think it was a real estate ad? But ये लाइन सुनो ना, हर घर में बस एक ही कमरा कम है. इसकी
हाँ.
पहली वाली लाइन भी अगर आपको कॉन्टेक्स्ट नहीं है, just हर घर में बस एक ही कमरा कम है. It's such a
It's
wonderful
also
line. Like,
it's such a nice way to also put, like, as human beings we always want more. You always literally
That is
think
right.
that you are one you're until you have that one other thing you're not going to be
yeah,
happy. That
yeah,
the lack
it's
of present contentedness with what you have.
yeah, and it's amazing that it's Javed Akhtar doing it, but literally you can connect it to every millennial meme and the response to every millennial meme where, you know, like a lot of mental health posts are like, or a therapist will tell you stuff like, don't postpone your happiness to, or don't attach it to some future goal. Like, don't be like, you know, if I lose 15 kilos, I'll be happy. If I make X amount of money, I will finally be happy. Because you won't. You will for a bit, and then like life returns to normal, right? And people are asking. I'm also confused. What this basically means? Har ghar mein bas ek hi kamra kam hai. It's really talking about how happiness is.
Thanks, that I'm not the only dumb one here.
Yeah,
Read,
Ramya asked, and
read the English
Ramya,
translation, no?
the English translation very literal, but let's see. All of us are just one step from happiness. In every house, we always seem to lack one room. It's very literal.
No fun.
हर घर में बस एक ही कमरा
But
कम है.
that,
वो thought
again,
अगर
that also shows you the beauty of the language. There are
Yeah.
things you can say that is
Yeah.
not, there is no way that you can say these things in any other language where it will have that weight.
yeah,
So it really like
that's
it, yeah.
yeah, and we don't get to really read that language, so that was
Yeah.
while and yeah, man, just we're always constantly chasing something, and that's good. Ambition is good, but sort of setting expectations and deciding, no, I can sort of compartmentalize and be happy with what I have right now while also working towards that goal. That's
Yeah,
a much better approach.
It's a notion of खुश होना तो इसी में होना है. You can't, you know, it's the thing of chal, I'll go on a trip. I'm having a bad time. I'll go on a trip to find myself. It's that notion of you have to be happy here in
Yeah.
your 15 kilo overweight body, in your
Yeah.
one room come house, in your, you have to figure
Yeah.
out how to find happiness in the whatever, in
Yeah.
that. There's no going somewhere else to find it.
Yeah, I've always found that about travel, right? Like, if you are sad and you go on a holiday, you will just be sad in a
On
prettier
a holiday.
place.
It'll be,
Yeah,
it'll be
just-
yeah, somewhere
Yeah,
else.
and then you'll be like, why am I sad here? So this is like really, it addresses that constant chase that we're at. And so I don't know about other people, but when I read this, I don't just read it and be like, okay, cool. Like I could spend like 5 minutes lying in bed, like just thinking about this.
Yeah.
And that's why it's different from like a fiction book, which is, you know, there's plot happening. And
But why
with
did
that-
you choose this? Like, how does it help you from, does it bring you to a calmer place? Like, why is this your choice for the Shiny Happy Book Club? Like, how has it helped you?
Yeah. It helps you in the sense that, okay, these thoughts that he's expressing, these are not new themes. These have been around ever since man was able to think and consume. Right? These were valid in the time of the Greeks 2000 years ago. I'm sure they've addressed something like this 5,000 years ago. And it is valid now if you're a 17-year-old in college figuring shit out. It is valid if you're 40 years old and like wondering what to do in life next and where your life is going and blah, blah, blah. So these are not old themes, they're timeless. And I think that's why it's just nice to see that, hey, I'm not the only one. Like everyone thinks of this, and it in that sense, it makes you feel like, oh, you're part of a larger narrative. These are very human emotions. And with Javed Akhtar especially, like there is a lightness of touch. It's never Javed Akhtar and Gulzar Saab, right? It's never like heavy, soul crushing, like that sort of stuff. They will say like the deepest of things with like just a swift, soft turn of phrase. So that approach to those emotions is why I like it. And I think that's why I chose it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, there's a comfort in knowing that Rumi wrote about the same things that Javed Akhtar is still, you know.
Yeah, and and you see the same emotion in like a meme, you know, all these like nihilistic memes or whatever. Like there's a lot of these mental health memes that go around too, so that it's timeless. And I'm not going to be able to hang out with Javed Akhtar and be like, buddy, suna na ek poem hai, please, buddy, please, मैं drink बनाता हूँ, तू share बोल. Like it's not happening anytime soon, if at all. So this is the next best thing.
The closest you can get.
Yeah. So I think this the happiness theme in this particular share was interesting. Hopefully, Ramya, I don't know if you understand it a little better. Can I? I mean, we can explore some themes. I would like to. I think if we have time, maybe come back to Ken Follett after this. But I can do a couple more that I liked, if that's okay with you.
Go ahead.
Javed Akhtar also wrote, sorry, Vivek Tejuja is saying, Javed Akhtar also wrote Dard Disco, and that's also poetry. Yes, of course. Of course. London, New York, Paris, San Francisco, Dil mein mere hai darde disco. Darde disco, going to digress for a bit, it is definitely
It's a
poetry.
different kind of
Uh,
poetry. Yeah.
it is that because it's a parody,
I
right? Darde
understand.
disco.
I understand Darde Disco.
Oh, you do? It's not too
Yeah.
complicated. It's a parody of all these item numbers, and it is obviously written to riff, and it's so much fun. That whole movie is so much fun. So Javed Akhtar, all rounder, uh, Darde disco bhi और ये भी. Um, ये वाला भी interesting है. Let me see if you get this. इस शहर में जीने के अंदाज निराले हैं, होठों पे लतीफे हैं, आवाज में छाले हैं. Wawa, wawa. I did the explanation to the last one. I would like Anuya to
Yes.
explain.
What is a Latif?
Oh, latife means like
Look,
jokes. So
I've come
like,
late. That guy is Latif.
yeah,
That's all I
he's
know.
late Latif.
Yeah.
Jokes, you can call them like jokes.
Okay.
इस शहर में जीने के अंदाज निराले हैं,
Hmm.
होठों पे लतीफे हैं, आवाज में छाले हैं. Anuya, please explain to our audience.
Nice. Now that you did it deeply, I understand it completely.
Yeah, I lowered my voice. I went down one octave.
So soothing.
Yeah.
It's the,
Yeah.
the sleep podcast voice. Guys.
I'll explain it. So it means that wow, living in the city is amaze. Uh,
Yes.
sometimes mouth has ulcer, but you have to tell joke. That's literal translation.
Do you think it's about a comedian who's not taking B complex? Is that what
Yes, probably that,
is that?
Shit, that reminds me I need to take B complex.
First poem was about living in a complex. This one is about B complex.
B complex.
But no, Anuya, you have a
You
serious
think B
explanation.
complex is actually telling us how to be? Like,
Yeah, just be
Yeah,
complex.
be
Don't,
complex.
yeah. Yeah, like don't be a basic bitch. Don't be simple.
you think
Yeah. Yes. My
Uh,
interpretation is that we don't say what's in our hearts. Like we might be hurting inside, but we are only smiling outside. Is that what it means?
essentially, and he's made it a comment on the city. I assume it's Bombay,
Yeah.
which is a very business-like and city.
Hmm.
Shaheen, do you have anything to add to that?
no.
No, but Tejuja does. What?
Like joke, like hi.
Vivek is like it reminds me of एक अकेला है शहर में मैं गुलजार साहब. That's true, actually, it does. एक अकेला है शहर में रात और दोपहर में आप दोनों ढूंढता. Yeah, definitely. So, and I mean, I didn't like this shit just because I'm a comedian, but again, what a wonderful way of saying it. Like this, is the phrase "आवाज में छाले," right? Just
No, that's the thing
incongruity.
that-
Yeah, it's such a nice way of saying. Everybody says I'm fine. Essentially, that's what it means.
It's true.
So yeah, those are, and again, so this is one of those food for thought kind of things where I can read this at night and think of it.
Did it make you want to read more? Did like reading this make you want to read more poetry, more, or more stuff in the
Yes.
Hindustani language?
Yes, because apart from just this, I do find myself from time to time, like I think Dr. Rahat Indori died recently, and I found myself looking at older videos of it which I'd seen earlier, and that's the poet we'd seen at Commune, and it was outstanding. The
Wait,
man
we
is
saw?
the one
We
at
saw
Commune.
Rahat Indori?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Spoken Fest.
Yeah, Spoken Fest. Sorry, not Commune. Spoken Fest. Yeah, that was him. Remember?
That was him, right.
Yeah, and he's sitting in this addressing this crowd of essentially mostly Bandra people, like it's
Good,
and
like,
but the command he had over the crowd, they were hanging on to every word, and he's the one with that poem, right? Kisi ke baap ka Hindustan nahi, which became famous during the protests. He has an incredible body of work. So books like this, what they do is make me sort of seek out more of it. Most of it has been on online with these videos. I will also like seek out. There are some pages on Instagram, handles on Instagram. Jashner Ekta.
Yeah, they do very nice.
A Nation in Translation. They post a lot of poetry. So it's just two lines every day, and that's how I've been seeking out. I don't have another book on poetry as such. Like I said, I'm very new. Like this is the basic bitch of poetry from what I understand, but that doesn't matter as long as it has an impact on you. it doesn't need to be heavy, man. There is that other poem, Main Banjara. It's a much longer poem, and there's a video of Javed Akhtar online just reading Main Banjara,
Mm.
and it's a whole thing. And I don't want to read it out because I won't do justice to it. But it's essentially he describes life as a set of memories. So Main Banjara, I'm a traveler through time, and these are my memories, and I make new ones and I discard old ones, and that's how it is. And the trope he's used is I'm a traveler going from town to town, and every town I go to, kids from the town come and tell me, hey, come and ask me, tell me your stories, and
Mm.
I do them. And this is the one where you would be familiar with one part of this, um, which you have heard in a famous Bollywood song.
Mhm.
Um, he's talking about lost love, I think, and this is the part where तुम होती तो कैसा होता, तुम होती तो ऐसा होता, तुम इस बात पे मुस्कुराती, तुम इस बात पे. So this is from ये कहाँ आ गए हम.
Mm.
That spoken part is from this मैं बंजारा poem.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I was
Interesting.
I was just looking for. I mean, this
So
just
that
it's not Javed Akhtar, but there was another like. I think the power of just conveying so much in so little. And there's
yeah,
another. No, I can't really find it, but there's another which is also which is it goes something to the effect of बेहतर दिनों की तलाश में हम बेहतरीन दिन गवाते चले आए, or something to that effect, which
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
that's I think it's a lot more poetically put than
Huh,
that. But I think just the
huh.
simplicity of the telling you something so poetically that's so true that in looking for
Yeah,
better days you forget you're losing out on good ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like
So
it's just the value of like saying so much in
Super.
so little.
Rupi Kausik.
and there's one poem he's written for his daughter, I think, when she was younger. So he's written for Zoya Akhtar, and it's just lovely stuff like that. And the best part is, again, there is no um, um, like agenda to this book. You can dip into it anytime. There's stuff about religion and communalism, facade se pehle.
Hmm.
बस बहुत ही सुंदर imagery है. And if you imagine Javed Akhtar saying it, it's even better.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we can wrap up on this wonderful note.
Somebody has called you Panu, yeah.
really
Sorry.
a very positive note on this very
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
positive, guys. Can I just add before you guys wrap up? Can I just say to the audience, yeah, if you like poetry, please read more stuff like this, or just check stuff out online. You will be surprised at how much you enjoyed, especially if you like any stuff that from that Coke Studio, Amit Trivedi's table. Like, it's a lot in that zone. It's just beautiful, beautiful writing. Um, and also just read the Century Trilogy. Just like read the whole thing.
dude. I can't wait. I'm so excited. This is what
You know, now I want to reread it. Like I
starting
would,
to
but and
finish.
the problem is I have so many books to read this month that I'm just it'll be very stupid if I pick up and read the Century Trilogy. But
Okay, yeah.
yeah, now I
Cha-
want to.
Oh, ye Chahat Khattar. I remember this. Sorry, in chat, Chahat Khattar saying there was one share where Javed Akhtar talked about how we handled our life as if it belonged to others. It's somewhere, I can't find it, but it's really, really nice. It essentially, it's about how we're how we're better at sort of helping out other people, and how we're nicer to other people, but really unkind and reckless with our own lives and our own
Yeah.
uh, mental health and our own inner voice. And again, just two lines that say so much. So thank you, Chad. That was really
Yes.
Shaheen Vivek is saying that what you said is by Habib Amrovi. I don't know
Yes.
who that is, but
Yes. Yes.
Vivek will know everything.
oh.
So
Yeah.
Dude,
No. No.
I love Vivek. Any like he comes to quizzes or whatever, anywhere he comes, he just like says smart shit. It's great.
yeah,
Amazing.
because Vivek has read everything there is to read. So
Yeah,
now he
yeah, yeah.
attends quizzes and shows off.
Vivek is the mother lode. Like
Great.
Vivek is like the central consciousness from which all books emerge.
Everything stems.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so
And
uh,
just finally to wrap up, Ashish, just last question. What do you hope that readers have taken away from your picks this month? Just what do you hope that they take?
um, okay. From Tarkash, very quickly about how and this is a book I would describe as Shiny Abbey, Tarkash or Quiver. The takeaway I hope is that you can dip into these thoughts, these shairis, these poems, because they are timeless. They speak of emotions that are timeless, and it kind of reminds you that everyone has faced what you're going through in some form or the other at some stage in time. And it's a nice reflection on that. And uh, I mean, there is beauty in poetry. So why would you deny yourself that just because you're unfamiliar or new with it? Please feel free to jump into it. If you've liked any decent Hindi film song, really, it's in the same space. It's super accessible, and it is a lovely companion sometimes. And with regards to the Century trilogy, um, I hope just you can get inspired by the tenacity and bravery of these characters, because yes, they didn't exist the way obviously they're written, but a lot of aspects of these characters were real people. There were people who have lived through that braved uh, uh, abject horror. Like there is that part in Century Trilogy where the telegrams start coming in of the dead boys, soldiers, and that entire town has an entire
Yeah.
population wiped out. And that happened, right? Because they used to do the Brotherhood regiment, sign up people from one town. So all boys from one town used to die. So people have lived through that. They've lived through the Nazis. They've lived through terrible political decisions. Um, so just an inspiration, if you will. Like if these people were alive today, you would want them on your podcast, just being like, what was it like, right? And we don't have that. The closest again we have is this. So just sort of take those lessons from that, and also understand, even if you're not political, the way politics will take an interest in you, right? Things beyond your control and the way they can spiral. You'll see, especially in book two, the way Nazism rises, the way it goes out of control, the way um, uh, nations operate. It's, you think that the people at the top are not um, victim to like narcissism or ego or cowardice or corruption, but they absolutely are driven by those impulses and they will make mistakes. So just to understand that balance and appreciate a society wherein that doesn't take place, I think there is so much appreciation for people who can run a democracy without it imploding, right?
Yeah.
That understanding of the world will come inherently when you read this. So I think hopefully the people and just a better understanding of history and how it affects the modern world.
I have the perfect paragraph to end this on.
Huh.
Okay. So much hangs on the decisions of a small number of poorly educated people. That's democracy. Um, Gus smiled. A terrible way to run a country, but every other system is worse.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yes.
actually such a lovely, lovely way to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Summation. Yeah, yeah.
such
So,
a lovely summation.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Ashish, for being a part of the Shiny Happy Book Club
Oh,
this
absolutely.
month.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your picks. I personally, I honestly, like I said, it got me out of a massive fiction slump. So, and I have something to do now for the next like month. So I'm really excited.
Yeah.
You haven't
Uh,
read two and three? You haven't read?
oh,
Oh
I
my
just finished the first
God.
one. So I'm so excited. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying. I
you're
just have
so
so much
lucky.
to look forward to.
Oh,
Wait, you've
Uh,
read 2 and 3 before, though?
no.
no, this is
Oh
my
shit! Oh,
first
this is your first
time.
time.
Yeah,
The
that's what I'm
entire trilogy is the first time.
saying.
Oh, oh, Shaheen,
Stay
please text
for
me.
one
Please
more.
just, I feel free to text me when like OMG moments happen. Just
Yeah,
please,
dude,
I'm
like
like,
Ah,
it's been blowing my mind, so I can't wait. I have 1 month of this to look forward to now.
maza aega.
you're
You will
so
notice. You will
good.
notice
So
one
lucky.
trope though that I was talking to Anuya about. One trope you will notice in the books as you read. Man, nobody in this fucking series has protected sex like ever. Like everyone's just having unplanned pregnancies,
So,
and it
so
moves the plot forward. Huh?
was that an option? And at the time, like
I
when
mean, so condoms come into the picture in the first book.
at
They're
some
like
point, yeah, at some
called
point,
rubber johnnies.
Robert.
But yeah, going into the future also, man, everybody's just like, it's very funny. Once you notice that trope, you like it's very funny.
I feel like I'm gonna keep an eye out for this.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Keep an eye out. We will be announcing our curator for September very soon. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be announcing the books as well very soon. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Shakya. Thank you, Anuya.
And
Thank
bye.
you.
Yeah,
Which
it's-
one is that?
Puddle.
Puddle. Thanks, Puddle.
Puddle, say bye. Say
Puddle
bye.
and Flash who have joined us.
Bye. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye, guys.